On today's episode of the Carolina Sports Guy, we're going to look at the top 20 professional or drafted players by the East Carolina Pirates. Now, I have a couple people I'll talk about that didn't make this list or really had a more promising career, but just kind of want to look at 20 guys that kind of niched out a name or are niching out a name for themselves in the NFL. Before we get into today's content, if you haven't subscribed, please do, folks. It doesn't cost anything. Hit that bell notification and be notified of future video content. Make sure you leave some comments. Smash that like button. And subscribe. All right, folks. Kind of looking at this, I was going to originally start a top 12 list. And I just really started looking at names, and I come up with about 25. Now, a couple of guys I didn't include. A guy that was a fullback by the name of Vontae Leach, and I believe he played for the Baltimore Ravens, and he might have had a cup of coffee with Houston, I believe, but he was a great fullback. I think he even made the Pro Bowl. Really didn't have a lot of notoriety when he played at East Carolina, but because of the position he played, he went on and did well. A guy like Brian Rumpf, he kind of had a career with Baltimore as an offensive lineman. And I could go on and on about other players who played in the NFL or were drafted late, but I kind of want to look at guys who were drafted anywhere from the 5th round on up. And I did have a couple included on here because they had a career that is worth noticing and talking about. So I'm briefly just going to cover these in detail just to give you an idea of some of these guys, just in case you're not aware of East Carolina Pirate football. Number 20, well, I went ahead and put number 20 on this list because he's a 2021 4th round draft pick this year. Cincinnati Bengals took offensive tackle from East Carolina, Deontay Smith. So he hasn't played it down yet. I wanted to give him number 20 because lately East Carolina's fallen by the wayside. And I'm seeing guys from Appalachian State and UNC Charlotte and Coastal Carolina getting drafted. And East Carolina's put some really good talent in the NFL. And it is still primarily a football school. Now, number 19, I don't remember well, but he did have a playing career. 4th round pick of the New England Patriots back in 1981. Defensive end George Crump. George Crump. It's worth mentioning him. Number 18 on this list is by a guy by the name, and he's got a lineage here, these Carolina folks, Carlester Crumpler Sr., running back. Played for the Buffalo Bills. He was a 4th round pick in the 1974 draft. So he kind of goes in those shoes and backs up people like O.J. Simpson in Buffalo. Carlester Crumpler Jr., I believe, played at East Carolina. And then he had a son, I can't even think of his first name, a Crumpler, Algie Crumpler, that played for the UNC Tar Heels and I think played for the Atlanta Falcons. But Carlester Crumpler Sr. here played for Buffalo. I think his son, Jr., played at Seattle, but I don't think he was drafted. If it was very late. Number 17 on his list, defensive end Steve Hamilton for the Washington Redskins. He was a 2nd round pick in the 1983 draft. And the thing about it, when I bring up some of these guys in the 1980s, early 80s, they had some really good teams, folks. The 1983 squad, I believe, went 8-3. They didn't make a bowl game, but their 3 losses that year, where the defendant, they lost to a game in Florida State like 47-46 at Tallahassee to a very good Florida State squad. They lost to a very dominating top 10 squad, I believe, at the University of Florida at Florida, like 24-17 by 7 points. And then I believe they lost 17-12 by 5 points. Like one of the last plays of the game, Bernie Kosar of the University of Miami, who would go on and be undefeated and win the national championship that year, beat East Carolina in Miami 17-12. And like I said, they scored a touchdown late to win that game. They had all 3 of those Florida schools on the road, all 3 losses, but all 3 were 7 points, 5 points, and I want to say a 1-point loss. They should have been in the bowl that year, and they had a lot of high-end talent. So when I bring up the guys like by the name of Steve Hamilton just there, these were good guys. Number 16 as well, 1983, Jody Schultz, linebacker, Philadelphia Eagles 2nd round pick. He was on that squad as well. Very good talented team, the 83 team. Number 15, folks. Number 15 on this list. 2015, fourth round pick by the Atlanta Falcons, wide receiver Justin Hardy. And Justin Hardy at one time led the NCAAs in receiving yards and receptions, I believe, until another East Carolina guy would come around and break it. And I was at that game when Justin Hardy set that record against Tulane in Greenville. Number 14, 1979, going way back, Zach Valentine, second round linebacker picked by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Very, very impressive career he had. Number 13, I remember this guy very well. In 1981, second round pick by the New England Patriots, the great Tony Collins, running back. I believe he was tandem back there with Sam DeBam Cunningham. Number 12, we're getting close to the near times now. 2006, a guy that started as a tight end that would end up playing offensive tackle, Whimper, fourth round pick of the New York Giants. He notched out a pretty good career. I think he also played with Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken, but he had a pretty good career for the Giants. Number 11, another wide receiver, sixth round pick for the Dallas Cowboys, Dwayne Harris, 2011 draft. Very good punt returner, kick returner, caught the ball well, was a really good player, folks, and played for the New York Giants as well. Notched out a career special teams, really. Now we're getting into the top 10 East Carolina football. Number 10, 2017, second round pick by the Buffalo Bills. And being a Panthers fan, folks, I wanted him. We ended up missing out on him. We took him by the name of Curtis Samuel a few picks later. It worked out pretty good for us. But Buffalo takes a guy by the name of Zay Jones. Zay Jones would go on and break Justin Hardy's, not just school record, but the NCAA FBS record of most receptions and most reception yards by a wide receiver in a career. I think the yards or the receptions was in a career and the yardage was in a season, but incredible. It might not be broken. And now he's moved on with the Raiders, by the way. Number 9, 1999, defensive end. The Raiders choose fifth round pick, Rod Coleman. He notched out a pretty good career on the defensive line with the Raiders. Number 8, 1991, great player. Probably should have put him higher. Quarterback, Jeff Blake, sixth round pick. Yeah, he was way down there. He was drafted by the Jets, but he played a career. He played with a few teams. I remember he played with the Cincinnati Bengals. He had such a great deep ball, and he was part of that 1991 team. Really good team. I'm not even bringing up the punters that didn't get drafted, like John Jett and Matt Dodge, guys that were drafted and played. You know, Jett played for the Bears and the Cowboys and the Lions, and Dodge played for the Giants, and I know he really got screamed at because he screwed up a punt one time in the NFL. I didn't bring them up, but getting back on topic here, Jeff Blake was an incredible quarterback. His son, Emory Blake, played wide receiver for Auburn when Cam Newton and them won a national championship. And a little side note that Jeff Blake's sister, I believe it was, married Robert Jones, who's also on this list we'll get to in a little bit, and that's Zay Jones' dad. So really just good talent on this team. Number 7, since Jeff Blake was number 8, David Garrard, number quarterback, fourth round pick from Jacksonville. And I could have given Jeff Blake had a prettier ball, probably had a more impressive career, but Garrard stuck with one team with Jacksonville and for a longer period of time didn't bounce around. He was a starter longer. Wasn't much the journeyman like Blake was. So that's why I give Garrard the edge. Very big quarterback, I think from Durham Hillside, if I'm not mistaken. Number 6 on the list, Terry Long, offensive guard, fourth round pick in 1983. There we go with 83. By the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he was like parade All-American. He was like on the Bob Hope first team, all offensive team college football. He, from East Carolina, was the offensive guard that year and just had a hell of a career playing for the Steelers. Number 5, 1991 class, had a good year. Robert Jones, first round pick, a first rounder for the Dallas Cowboys, playing linebacker. Got him a few Super Bowls playing for the Cowboys, but just an incredible talent. Number 4, 2009, defensive tackle, Originally was supposed to go to the University of Florida and play for the Gators. Didn't qualify. Ended up going to East Carolina. Played a really impressive career with them. Left early. Was a second-round draft pick by the New York Giants at defensive tackle. Went on, I believe, to play for the Minnesota Vikings. He might be on another team now, but he really had so far, a really pretty good career at defensive line in the NFL. Number three is none other than 1982's fourth-round pick by the, I believe it was the Phoenix Cardinals. Yeah, it might have been the St. Louis Cardinals, but tackle Tootie Robbins. And Tootie Robbins, if you don't remember his name, he was a hell of a tackle offensive lineman. And like I said, this is a guy that come along around that time. East Carolina had some really prominent teams back in '82. Number two on this list. Number two is none other than Ernest Byner, 1984. He was a 10th round pick by the Cleveland Browns. And there's guys, I'll admit, that I left off the list who were 7th round picks, 8th round picks, even some guys that were in the 5th round, maybe on the 4th, but he didn't have a prominent career. Ernest Byner had a career. He fumbled at the goal line against Denver, would have put him in the Super Bowl for Cleveland, was a really good running back for the Browns. Went on to play for the Washington Redskins. I think he got a Super Bowl with them, but did a really good job there. But Ernest Byner had a really good NFL career running the ball. And the number one all-time greatest player, East Carolina history, that would go on and have an illustrious career in the NFL was running back Chris Johnson, who was a first-round draft pick by the Tennessee Titans. And remember, he might not have been a first-round pick, but his 40 time set the standard for 40s at the Combine. And then remember, he was 2008 first-round pick and was about 2010. I believe he had over 2,000 yards rushing for Tennessee, like the third or fourth highest all-time amount of rushing yards. And the man was just incredible with his speed. So, guys, that's the top 20 draft picks. East Carolina Pirate football. What do you think? I know I left some off. I probably put a couple on. Even threw out a couple tidbits on guys who weren't on the list. What would you change about it? Leave me some comments. Hit the bell notification. Pound that like button. And by all means, folks, subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. I will see you on another episode of the Carolina Sports Guy.